I think that everyone in the mainstream press enjoys telling the story of a highly motivated young man who went to California with nothing but a dream. And maybe this young man drew some sketches of an idea that he had for a movie. Maybe he drew some pictures of a concept he had for a comic book, for a cartoon, and then eventually this became a multi-million-dollar successful hit. All he had was an idea. All he had was a drawing. All he had was some level of talent. Tell me, what do you think a young man with an idea for a motion picture could do if he had $3.5 million to spend on that idea? What if it wasn't just once? What if you could spend $3.5 million year after year after year, every year as a sinking budget with no expectation of making a profit, of breaking even, with no pressure on him to earn any money? What could that young man do? I think if you phone up any of the animation studios in South Korea, you may not know this, South Korea is a major center for mainstream commercial animation, making cartoons, children's cartoons that appear on television, mainstream cinema that uses animation. And if you said to them, hey, I have an idea for a new cartoon. It's good. Maybe it'll be on Netflix, maybe it'll be on TV, maybe we'll try to make it for the cinema. They're maybe going to say back to you, yeah, we get a lot of phone calls from people with ideas. And then you say, hey, I have $3.5 million. Oh, all of a sudden they're interested. There are probably animation projects that never have $3.5 million at any stage, let alone at the startup stage. There are ideas for films that start up without even 50 cents, okay? And they go all the way and they have a huge cultural impact. Right? Isn't it peculiar what Dr. Greger does with over $2 million per year? Over $2 million per year, sinking a budget, disappearing into a YouTube channel that consists of very casual commentary on scientific articles. Something that other YouTubers do for free, casually, with no budget, with no donations. There are medical doctors who just take some time out of their day to record themselves discussing new scientific findings. Over $2 million per year now, the budget for Dr. Greger. What do you think about this? What do you think about these respectable people in suits and ties and button-up shirts? Some of the women are wearing evening gowns. They had a conference. Very intellectually, academically respectable conference. Isn't it peculiar that these videos, some of them have 35 views, 11 views, 13 views? Wow. I mean, the message I have to deliver to the vegan movement is very unpopular. It's a very critical, it's a message people are not eager to hear. All right, people don't watch my videos and then share the link with their friends saying this is something uplifting or upbeat or good. I have a video called Vegans, We're More Hated Than Jehovah's Witnesses that has 2,600 views. I have no institutional support. I have no budget, right? And that's a very unpopular message within the vegan movement or for people outside. And I reached 2,600 viewers. This conference can't even reach 100 viewers. Doesn't that tell you something? How many people were in the audience? How many people participated? Don't they have friends and family who share the link with each other on Facebook? Hey, my daughter or my cousin delivered a paper at this conference. Weren't there people in the audience who saw it live and then said, wow, that was a great talk, that was a great discussion, that was a great paper. I'm going to tell other people about it and they're going to watch this video? Shouldn't they be getting vastly more viewers than I do with my, kind of profoundly disturbing message about how vegan activism is a failure and a scam and is just creating more hatred and resentment against vegans from non-vegans and so on? These various kinds of critical issues. What do you think? Now, I know what you're imagining. You're looking at this conference and thinking, well, they're probably just some poor, penniless academics who, scrape together a few celebrities. Some of these people are kind of famous, Still, nobody wants to listen to that. They say, this is probably a very humble organization. No, it's not. Take a look. This was a flagship project of ProVeg International. All right, 3.5 million euros per annum. 3.5 million. This year, it's probably going to be even more the next year. Their budgets are going up and up from what I've seen. Millions and millions of dollars year after year after year. Okay? The truth is, the more cult-like aspects of veganism, they're easier to criticize. Okay? When you look at some of the extremist organizations that engage in civil disobedience and sabotage, acts of sabotage, when you look at groups that have, people chanting on the street, people doing hunger strikes, when you look at some of these kind of more ridiculous and risible forms of activism, maybe that's easy to criticize. When you move across the spectrum, though, once you start looking at the more respectable or ostensibly respectable, advocates for veganism with button-up suits and ties, with credentials, with the veneer of academic respectability. Sadly, that's where the real scam is. That's where we need harsh criticism the most, and they receive it the least. Nobody is questioning what Dr. Greger does with $2 million a year, now over $2 million a year. Nobody is questioning what ProVeg International is doing with 3.5 million euros per annum. Nobody is looking at the outcomes. On the contrary, if you search around, you will find a completely corrupt organization. It is my opinion that it's corrupt, and I've had videos in the past explaining precisely whether it's corrupt. You will find a completely corrupt organization that is declaring that this is effective activism, that this is an effective thing to do with 3.5 million euros per year, year after year after year, to hold this conference where people pat themselves on the back and tell themselves that they're saving the planet, that they're making the world a better place, and apparently not even 100 people have the mild curiosity to listen. And just say, it's not just these two extremes. It's not just the sort of people with credentials from academia, credentials maybe from the medical world, wearing suits and ties and sometimes lab coats. That's one extreme. And then the opposite extreme, as I've already mentioned, is sort of the stereotypical street punk engaging in disruption. Some of them even, as I say, sabotage or smashing windows. There was one guy who went to prison for bombing a fur shop, a shop selling fur coats. This kind of crap. Okay, that's the end of the spectrum that's easy to criticize. Somewhere in the middle, we have to question, shall we say, commercial but populist activities like this. All right, I don't really know the population of the greater Los Angeles area. I've been to Los Angeles. Where you draw the line around the city of Los Angeles is a very difficult question. Millions and millions of people go far beyond the limits of what is defined as Los Angeles. Okay, fine, I'll Google it. Greater LA population, maybe 20 million people. All right, so Los Angeles, you could call it 4 million, and apparently you could call it 19 or 20 million, depending on where you stop counting. At the LA county limits, at the suburban limits, so on and so forth. And they hold this event called VegFest, and they say on average, they get 5,000 people per year attending. They boast that in 2018, they had over 10,000 visitors. All right, the images you see on screen here are actually from the 2019 event. I have grave doubts that the real number of people attending is 10,000. I have grave doubts that the number of people who attended in 2019, at least, was even 5,000 people. I don't think that's what I'm looking at here. Now, I may be wrong, but you have to keep in mind there is a very real commercial incentive to lie about, exaggerate, or at least round up your estimate if you are operating, a festival of this kind and you're trying to get both donors and participating restaurants and businesses to support it. I had experience at 2 different magazine publications. One of them was a paid job. One of them was just me volunteering. And both of them openly printed thousands and thousands of copies of their own magazine that went into the garbage, that went into recycling. They inflated or they exaggerated the numbers they were selling or distributing. Yeah, I guess that would be the word technically. They exaggerated the number that were in circulation. So they'd tell their clients, they'd tell potential advertisers, oh, we printed so many thousand issues last month, or we print so many issues every month. All right, the number of issues they print is not the same as the actual number that are reading it. And that's fundamentally why social media is so important. As a reality check, ProVeg International, I'm sure they tell their donors that this event was a huge success. They say, oh, we had people attend this conference from around the world. We had all of these wonderful speakers, and they delivered these important papers. This was a major conference. It's going to save the planet and save the animals. Thank you. Please keep on donating millions of dollars. And you know what? The bullshit stops here. The bullshit stops with the number of views you get on YouTube. I'm dead serious about that. And look, guys, I'm not on an ego trip. This applies to me both ways. When you look at how many views I had on that video, vegans were more hated than Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, it tells you something. I reached an audience with that. I said, hey, look, I have a message that really matters to me. I want to present my critique of what's wrong with vegan activism. In the year 2019, that was over 1 year ago. I don't know if it was 2018 or 2019. And 2,600 people got interested and were willing to listen. That means something. You know what else? It may mean that there isn't a very big audience for that message. That may be the maximum number attainable or possible because not very many people care. If you are putting on a well-funded, populist vegan festival in Los Angeles, and you could attract, a huge number of people, 4 million downtown, maybe 19 or 20 million in the greater Los Angeles area, and you're boasting that you attract 5,000 people. And when I look at the pictures, when I look at the film footage, I think, that looks like a really generous estimate to say that there were 5,000 people there. Okay? Maybe that tells you something about just how little interest there is in veganism in Los Angeles, whether you're at the ostensibly respectable academic button-up end of the spectrum, the moderately respectable populist, commercial, merchandising and food sales industry end of the spectrum, or if you're way over on the lunatic fringe with the people who are engaged in acts of sabotage and civil disobedience, going to prison, what have you, okay? But there's a lot of money in this here game. The moral of this story, sadly, is that veganism in the year 2020 is cash rich and talent poor. Millions and millions of dollars are being spent year after year. The money is being spent by the wrong people for the wrong reasons with the wrong motivations.
I mean, really, people like to disrespect my crew, but the fact is that you know my name and I don't know you.